Hello, this is Darren again, and I um, have some more ideas that I feel that could help the black community. One idea that I have is the creation of where they were thinking about taking Washington, D.C. and making it into a state. Like there's been a lot of places, cities, and even states named after, famous white people. Why can't we have a state named after a famous black person? Like Washington, D.C., there's been a proposal to call it the Douglas Commonwealth. And I think that that would be a really great idea to actually call it that. And my idea for a flag would be similar to like the state of Washington's flag, which is the state of Washington flag. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. But I thought about creating a flag similar to this flag, and it would be the Douglas Commonwealth flag. And instead, in the center of the flag would be Frederick Douglass, and it would say something like, I was thinking about the Grand Seal because of the Grand Army of the Grand Republic, which was what the Union Army was sometimes referred to, the Army of the Grand Republic. So I was thinking about calling, the title in the seal would be the Grand Seal of the Commonwealth of Douglas, or of Douglas Commonwealth. And I think it would sound really cool. And I actually found a painting of Frederick Douglass on the internet that I thought would be a really good model for a Douglas Commonwealth state. And I believe that we should use civil rights arguments for the creation of a Douglas Commonwealth, because there are a lot of black voters in Washington, D.C., and a lot of lower, and also a lot of poor voters of other ethnicities and races too that live in Washington, D.C., and their voices are not heard enough in the federal government. We don't live in the 18th century anymore. We don't have to worry about states going to war against one another. We live in a nation state today. We don't live in an association of states like what was originally proposed. And so that's why, with time, and even Thomas Jefferson said it. He said it himself that, every generation needs a new revolution, right? Well, this is the new revolution, and this revolution would be would be franchising more black voters in the United States and create a 51st state in the Union with a flag that has the face of a great black man and a great black man, Frederick Douglass, who was an absolute genius. I even believe that he may have even had autism, which is another reason why I really admire Frederick Douglass, his courage, his brilliance. He self-taught himself how to read. If anything, he is as educated, if not more educated, than the founding fathers ever were. And I think he would be greatly humbled by the idea of naming a part of the Capitol after him. I think if Frederick Douglass were alive, that he would be very honored to see the homeland that made him a slave, that rejected him on some level because he was black, to finally embrace black people and as full Americans, which our country hasn't done a very good job at over the centuries. It's like every so often we throw a bone or whatever, more or less, to the black community. Oh, okay, we'll get rid of slavery, and then that's gone. And then, oh, okay, we'll get rid of segregation, and that's gone. And then we don't do anything else other than that. And then we get rid of the drug war partially. And then we still don't do anything after that. You know what I mean? So there's so many. It's like, there's got to be maybe a third Reconstruction as well, with returning, like I said, wealth that was taken from people who had slave ancestors. There should be reparations paid, because we're symbolically at least paying back the people that did, because they are related to the people that did. And it will also fix a historic income gap that has persisted for centuries. And people believe very wholeheartedly, there's a lot of evidence that shows that that slavery is what created the initial income gap, and that it is, and through the centuries, by white people being able to water down civil rights laws and things and demands to include black children in better performing schools and everything, things to keep them away. This has allowed this historic inequality to continue to cycle on. And so that's why what we need to do is we need to start taking symbolic steps as well as actual steps, because, and so one of those things would be, like I said, making the Frederick Douglass Commonwealth state, the Douglass Commonwealth, and the Grand Seal, and the flag would, like I said, I really think it would be a cool message on the flag, the Grand Seal of the state of Douglass Commonwealth. Would be, so it could be still called the state of, because, that way, and then, we would have finally a U.S. state with a black man's face on the flag, which I think would be an amazing achievement. As the other ideas I've had is I think Puerto Rico should become a U.S. state. I mean, after all this time, how they've been overlooked, and then they don't have as much power in the federal government as the states do, because they're just considered to be a commonwealth or a territory. Actually, that's what their status is, a territorial status. And because of that, because commonwealth is usually used as another name for state sometimes in the U.S., like Virginia sometimes is called the Commonwealth of Virginia. So Puerto Rico doesn't have statehood status, and they deserve to have statehood status. And, I think that it's completely racist of our government to not include Puerto Ricans as full voting citizens when they are U.S. citizens. Puerto Rico has been a U.S. state, not U.S. state, it's been a part of the United States for like over 100 years now. And, and they get overlooked a lot because of racism. Because of people's fear of there being more Latino voters. And that's what I see it as. I mean, the right wing can't explain it anywhere else. And they could try to make inroads as well to try to, there are times in Puerto Rico where they've elected Republican governors in their territory. You know what I mean? So why not, it's not like they're going to all go Democrat. That's insane. That the right wing believes that. No one is going to monolithically vote for a political party unless that political party is completely opposed to people of that group's rights. Then it's reasonable. It's reasonable for people to vote monolithically then, and say, well, everyone should go vote for the Democrats if the Republicans or the right wing, is saying that they're not going to include other people that are different than them. So there needs to be something done about this injustice. You know what I mean? There needs to be something done about the Douglass Commonwealth not being stopped from being created, and also Puerto Rico from being prevented from becoming a U.S. state. These are two areas of the country that should become U.S. states, and I do think that eventually the other territories, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, and American Samoa, and I think that they should also be considered for statehood status as well. Maybe we should bring up our state count to 54 or 55 or even 56 states. I support that idea because there's a lot of areas of the country that don't have the right to democratically vote for the president and have senators and congressmen. They can only have they can only have advisors. So, and I apologize if I didn't pronounce the names correctly. I do tend to have trouble pronouncing names, and I hope that I didn't offend or anything. But I really think that we should really look into including more of the U.S. territories as U.S. states, including D.C. I think if we continue to overlook people in these areas, it's just pure racism. You know what I mean? It's just pure racism to be afraid of other U.S. citizens and allowing them to share the power within the country. So that's the thing. If the Republicans really want to win elections, they have to, you have to gain the acceptance of other voters. That's the thing. I mean, for the longest time, the Republican Party's been sort of like in the words of some, I believe of like, I've listened to Tom Hartman, in the words of like Tom Hartman, the Republican Party has more or less become like the white male grievance party, in a lot of ways. Something, maybe something like that, maybe he didn't say that exactly, but, more or less it has been. It's basically the party of rich white men. And the Republican Party was not founded as the rich white man's party. It was founded as the party of the common people. The idea that people should be able to keep the fruits of their labor, which is something that, maybe the conservatives still believe, like, such as, maybe paying less taxes. But at that time, it meant slavery. It meant that no human being should be owned by another human being, and everyone should be able to keep the fruits of their own labor. That was something that Abraham Lincoln believed in. And people say that even if Abraham Lincoln was racist, he at least believed that black people should be able to keep the fruits of their own labor. And that, unfortunately, was the most liberal you could be at that time. There needs to be a rectifying of legacies of injustice. Because really, in actuality, we are all black people. We all have ancestry from Africa. At one point, the entire world was black. Even Europe and Asia were black at one time. And then over time, due to thousands of years of separation and different weather conditions, small little differences changed on our faces and things. And these things don't really mean anything. You know what I mean? We're all part of the same human family. We all have, they say that all humanity has one mother, which we could call her Eve, depending on what people believe, and so that's the thing. And so I really believe that, I know this is sort of going off topic, but, I really do believe that we really need to make the Douglas Commonwealth a state, and also Puerto Rico. Thank you.